All you have to do is come with me.
Where?
Where else? To Zahadum.
This is about more than what I want. So I'm going, even though I know it's almost certainly a trap.
Who are you? Who decides that the workday is from 9 to 5 instead of 11 to 4? Who decides that the hemlines will be below the knee this year and short again next year? Who draws up the borders, controls the currency, handles all of the decisions that happen transparently around us?
I don't know.
I'm with them. Same group, different department. Think of me as a sort of middleman. And the name is Justin.
It was the end of the Earth year 2260, and the war had paused, suddenly and unexpectedly. All around us, it was as if the universe were holding its breath, waiting. All of life can be broken down into moments of transition or moments of revelation. This had the feeling of both. Jaquan wrote, "There is a greater darkness than the one we fight. It is the darkness of the soul that has lost its way." The war we fight is not against powers and principalities. It is against chaos and despair. Greater than the death of flesh is the death of hope, the death of dreams. Against this peril we can never surrender. The future is all around us, waiting in moments of transition to be born in moments of revelation. No one knows the shape of that future or where it will take us. We know only that it is always born in pain.
She was the woman he loved. Now she belongs to them.
Time to learn the truth.
Melissa Gilbert guest stars on an all-new Babylon 5.
You have transmissions holding.
Patch incoming signal. Full audio and video decode.
Purple files accessed.
What you are about to see has never been shown to anyone outside the Grey Council.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to Grey 17, a Babylon 5 podcast, part of the Front Row Network and NPR Illinois Community Voices. We are a group of newbies watching Babylon 5 for the very first time, as well as a group of first ones who are watching Babylon 5 for the umpteenth time. And we are here today to talk about the Season 3 finale, Zahadum. I'm Scott, and with me is...
Jessi.
Justin.
Blake.
Emily.
Mike.
Nicole.
And Kevin.
Now, usually what happens when we get to these big episodes, we get a lot of new listeners, so I'm going to explain a little bit how this goes. Our newbies have only watched up until Zahadum. Jessi, I think, watched like 5 minutes ago. And we are going to be discussing that episode spoiler-free with the newbies. Well, we'll spoil the episode, but we won't talk about anything that happens afterwards. At the end of that, we'll get the questions that are lingering from our newbies and predictions from our newbies about what's going to happen next in season 4. And then we'll jettison out the airlock, and then us first ones who have watched the whole show, we'll do a spoiler section after the fact. Before we do any of that, just a reminder to check out all our social media. They're linked down below. We have our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all active. We have a really good conversations on our Facebook. Our Twitter right now is running our season 3 tournament. And as this gets dropped, I will be dropping the championship round of the tournament. We have about, we're down to 4 as we record this, and we'll have the championship rolling out here pretty soon. So check that out on Twitter. And then we'll discuss that on our live show, which will be next Sunday, October 22nd at 9 p.m. Central U.S. time. And that will be over at YouTube. So if you go to our YouTube channel, which is again linked down below, you'll be able to find the notification for that live show. Click the notify me button and you'll get the ring as soon as we do go live. And you can join that conversation of all things season 3. Along with that, you can also join our Patreon where we are having our Discord discussions. We have both a non-spoiler and spoiler section. Our Discord yesterday was talking about JMS books, which is interesting. So a lot of good conversations happening over there. And finally, if you can, please hit that subscribe, the like, the follow button, whatever buttons you have in front of you, as well as leave us a review. Those reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, really do help us grow. We actually didn't get any new reviews this week, so I'm a little sad. But we did get a new comment from a new listener over at YouTube. This comes from Conway Gritty 73. I just found this channel. Absolutely love this. I've watched the entire series easily over a dozen times, and it's by far the best television series ever made, in my opinion. Can't wait to see the rest of these. And then he gives me a Spock salute. So thank you, Conway Gritty. Welcome to the shit show that is our show. And we are glad to have you over at YouTube. And also, you can check out the audio podcast as well. Again, linked down below. So let's go ahead and start talking about Zahha-Dum. Emily, I believe you have a synopsis for us for Zahha-Dum.
Yeah, Zahha-Dum goes boom. That's it.
Thank you. That's
Nothing else is relevant. That's the only thing that matters.
Nothing else in the entire episode is relevant.
Nope, doesn't matter.
Just the boom.
Just the boom. Well,
I have a feeling we're going to be talking a little bit more about it than just the boom, but the boom will be talked about, I'm sure. So let's go to our newbies and get their first impressions. And Jessi, you've been gone for a while, so let's get you first. First impressions.
Holy fucking shit. This episode makes me want to go back and watch the entire series all over again. As I was watching, I was like, you watch it and you forget stuff, and then they bring it back up and I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of remember that. But just holy shit. All the stuff happened all at once. 8,000 questions just based off the last 5 minutes of the show. I loved it. I, again, am finding myself, to those of you who are new, actually enjoying all of it. So it's fun. I like it. I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it. Thank you. Speaking of not hating it, Emily, first impressions.
Wow. Yeah. So there was a boom. I was actually really glad to find out that his wife had like a personality alteration, because I can't imagine he'd ever be married to someone that shitty. And it was actually nice to finally understand what the Shadows are trying to do. They're basically trying to have every other group commit genocide against whatever other group, all of them, doesn't matter, irrelevant, because they want the space. They're just hoping everyone else kills everyone else off so they can have the region and whatever's.
Interesting. We'll talk about that more because I think they want something different, but let's see what the other newbies have to say about that. Justin, first impressions.
I mean, I didn't hate it either. It was...
You dogged shadow dancing. Are you going to dog Zahha-Dum as well?
No, honestly, no, I'm not. I loved it. Wonderful episode. I enjoyed it. It answered a lot of questions. It triggered a lot of new questions. So it was a very fulfilling episode. If I do have to admit, a little predictable. But other than that, absolutely loved it. It makes sense that the human leader of the Shadows is also named Justin. That makes up that kind of, I saw that, I'm like, yeah, okay. And then, yeah, makes perfect sense.
I call him Mark Twain.
Yeah, I saw that too. again, I know that we've all said it from time and time again. It just makes me pissed off that I can't just go on and start binging the next one, because I've got a lot of thoughts about the repercussions of this episode. So,
well, just remember when we were watching it back in the day, we saw Zahha-Doom go boom in October, and we had to wait for January for season 4. And there was actually some talks about the way WB was doing stuff, and they didn't know if there was going to be a season 4 at this point. They were pretty sure there was going to be blah, 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 blah. There was some talks of moving this episode to be the first episode of season 4. So that would have been interesting. Nicole, first impressions.
Obviously, I thought this was an awesome episode. I really liked it. Couple little things that are very Nicole niche, I have to point out. Anna, shady bitch. Shady counts up. Also, the swear count is up. 2 swears in this episode. Sheridan swore and Garibaldi swore. So I was like, oh, okay, we're getting a little crazy here for the WB or wherever it was aired, you know. So that was kind of just something funny. I noticed that there was some swearing. I appreciated that because I like swearing. But no, I thought it was a great episode. A lot happened. Anna, shady ass bitch, she got, and I was happy. I was like yelling at the screen, like, fuck that bitch. I do not like her. But yeah, I thought the visions of Kosh and the voices of Kosh that Sheridan was hearing, I thought that was kind of a cool touch. Clearly he's the one that is still connected to Kosh, not Lita, because this just kind of proved it to me. But yeah, I thought obviously overall it was good. I'm glad that he didn't leave with Delenn in like a bad place and he sent her that message. I thought that was good because you could tell she was, you know, devastated, thinking that he didn't want anything to do with her. And that was like, that kind of broke my heart a little bit. Overall, I thought it was really good. I like that he knew that she was shady and didn't trust her. I apparently am naive because I didn't think it was predictable. Like, I was like, why is he going there? And I didn't realize until he called the ship that they had the bombs, obviously. And I was like, oh, so either I'm just dense or naive. I'm not sure. One of the two. But yeah, I just thought it was really good. You know, I got really mad when the shadow surrounded B5 while he was there, because basically if he said no, they were going to kill everybody, you know, and then they were going to just put him in one of those ships and put the shit in his back of his head. So yeah, there was a lot to unpack. So I think I'm rambling. I just need to stop talking. But great episode. Great episode.
Nicole, I don't know about predictability. We'll talk to everybody about that, but I will say this was foreshadowed a lot. Obviously, we saw in War Without End that Delenn in the future was telling John not to go to Zahha-Doom and all of that. But if you go back to all the way to In the Shadow of Zahha-Doom, which, by the way, is one of our most listened to episodes, Sheridan says, I won't go down easy and I will not go down alone. And I love that got paid off finally. That's one of those like lines like, oh, I know what's happening there. That's a lot of foreshadowing.
Who knew he was talking about his ex-wife?
I mean, who hasn't wanted to nuke their ex-wife? I mean, come on. Let's be honest. Justin, what do you think?
I agree.
You're the only one with an ex, so that's why I had to pick you.
Yeah. Oh, can I add one more small thing? One more small thing. I literally wrote out the entire ending of Jakar's voiceover because I just thought it was so profound and so like it was beautiful and sad and true, and I just loved it. So I wrote it out so I have it in front of me so I could go back and read that because I just thought it was so epic.
Yeah, Andreas Katsoulis is he this is not his last speech. And all his speeches are just so damn good. The last one he does, which I'm not going to say when or what the context is, but I have used that whenever, I've used it a lot, and I won't say anything else, but his last speech he gives, chef's kiss. The one other thing too, Nicole, since you mentioned that scene real quick, what I love about that was at the very end, as kind of Babylon 5 is moving into the terminus, so they're kind of going away from the sun, the lights start coming on the ship, which, by the way, the effects have gotten a lot better, as we've already discussed, but I love the symbolism of being a light in the dark, and season 4 is gonna that's going to be a theme, I think. Okay, let's go to our first ones who have seen all the show, and we'll do Mike first. Mike, first impressions.
I do like this episode. It's not one that resonates with me a lot. There are some things that I kind of chuckle at, like the Shadow's ultimate sales pitch of the evilest thing you've ever heard, but trying to play it off like it's not the evilest thing you've ever heard. I find to be kind of like a laughable premise overall, and it undercuts the seriousness. Yeah, it's very, very timeshare-like in my mind. And then Ivanova signing for the delivery of plot devices in the very beginning of the episode is another one. But
your MacGuffin has arrived, ma'am.
But overall, I mean, it is, despite those two things, like, it is still a good episode. There's a lot of really good payoff in it, and that's really about all I can say for it, for my personal feelings.
Kevin, first impressions.
I'd have to agree with Mike. That's a lot like how I feel about this episode. It's good. There's a couple of issues with it, but overall, I mean, this is an iconic episode. This is one you absolutely can't skip. This is an enjoyable watch. It added some more drama into the Sheridan and Delenn relationship that I'm hoping some people will like, because they thought it was getting a little too, Delenn doing the googly eyes at Sheridan and not much else. So I thought that was a good addition. And I'm real interested to see what everyone has to say about this one. So
Blake.
So I really enjoy this one, especially looking within the context of the whole season. I mean, this was really the first time in television you had one writer across an entire season with JMS, and the bits of foreshadowing and pieces he put into the episode, and to see it pay off here with this one with Zahadum. And I thought it was a good pace ups too. I liked the way it moved the story. It explained a little bit more and finally gave us that answer of what the hell do the shadows actually kind of want and where are they at within the context of all this. So I really enjoyed the episode for that. And then just seeing that in piece where the White Star crashes through that skylight, which again, there's some holes in it, which, why would you have a giant skylight for an underground city that you could crash a ship through, and not blow it out of orbit to begin with, but, minor things. I did appreciate, though, it was mentioned, I love when they showed up at the start, it's like, here, would you please sign for this plot device that you're going to need later? It just nicely delivered that right up front of, it's here, ready to go. So I do like this episode, though. I think it's one of the better ones. It's pretty high ranked if I remember the...
Yeah, it's number 2 on Lurker's Guide. The only episode that beat it on the rankings is Severed Dreams, which we've already seen as well, too, from season 3. Honestly, I think there is some better episodes still coming, but this is number 2 overall, according to Lurker's Guide. Is that it, Blake?
That's it.
Yeah, so like usual, you guys have hit on most of what I wanted to hit on, which is great. To Blake's point, yeah, this is the first time in American television history that a showrunner or any writer has wrote the entire season from episode 1 to the end. And the funny part is JMS talked a lot about how it nearly killed him and it ruined his marriage. And in his autobiography, he talks more about that. But when he said, after he had Zahadum get turned in as a script, he said, I have no plans to do this next season. And he'll do it again next season. He'll write the whole season again. So poor man just likes to, hurt himself. With this episode, I really do enjoy that, even though it literally is a plot dump, the entire episode is just like, here, plot. It's done well. I really love the scene where Justin, Morden, Anna, and Sheridan are just sitting around a table talking. Mike, you already hit on it. When Justin's like, and sometimes species die, and that's sad. I'm just like, you are a sick motherfucker, Justin. Both of you, actually.
I was going to say, yes, I am.
Listen, in order to make this omelet, a few billion people got to die. It's no big deal. It's no big deal.
Well, I got a lot more I want to talk about, both here and then also Beyond the Rim, too, where we do our spoiler section. So we'll just dive in. There's really, I guess the B plot is what's happening at B5 while Sheridan goes to Zahadum, but it's all kind of one meshed together plot. So I don't know where you guys want to start talking, but somebody start talking.
Should we talk about Londo before we get into the rest of it? Since he apparently has a new liaison with the shadows.
Well, yeah, go for it.
It was interesting because as soon as the guy walked up, I was like, oh, this dick's working for the shadows. And I was like, that was an interesting assumption to make without hearing a word. I was like, yep, I know who he is and what he's up to.
He's wearing a nice suit and he's talking to Londo. He's a bastard.
Yeah, he seems suspicious.
So my one question, since you brought that up, is we don't see it. Do you all think that Veer and Londo took the warning and got the hell off the station? Do you think he left?
100%. He's a pussy.
He gone.
Mike, what do you got?
I kind of assumed he would take the hint and leave because he's not that.
Funny you actually brought that up. I actually forgot about that part of it. I was going to comment on the fact that we found out early in the episode between Londo and Beer that, Londo had followed in the grandest tradition of upper management and failed upwards.
Yeah.
What's that? The Peter principle? You always get promoted just to where you're a failure?
Yeah, apparently he didn't do quite a good enough job, so now he's got a direct line to the Emperor, which he did go on to explain was not a good thing.
I do appreciate that, though, that Londo understands that in not just Centauri culture, but also in politics in general, sometimes when you get moved into that upper echelon, it's not because they think you're great at what you do. It's because they want to keep an eye on you. Mm-hmm. So season 4, fun times. Justin, what do you got?
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say about Londo as well, is we know at some point he fails all the way up into the big chair, and this is another step in the right direction. So, but I don't really know if he's like, they're talking about the kind of the guy who shows up to kind of give him the warning. I don't think he's a shadow. Like I don't think he's another Morden per se, but I think he was just somebody who is associated with the shadows through Earth or through some other means, who was just said, hey, go get Londo out of there before we show up. But I don't think he's another crew of the Icarus, but who knows, maybe he is.
Yeah, I mean, we know where Morden was. He's hanging out on Zaha Doom, probably because he doesn't want to get blowed up either. So
right.
Yep, definitely dude's expendable as opposed to Morden. Nicole.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, he was just probably sent by Morden or told to give him the message because Morden was waiting for Sheridan to come and, not going to come there to tell Londo when he wanted to basically take Sheridan hostage, essentially. And by the way, Morden was hella creepy, like extra creepy in that scene, like in that room. He really just gave me the heebie-jeebies more than normal.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the casualness with which he's talking about committing eugenics?
He just looked evil. Like he looked more evil than normal. Maybe it was because his hair was a little different. It was like slick back as opposed to like the curlyish.
He looked less Rod Serling than usual. Yeah.
Yeah. He just looked like if I saw him in an alley, I would turn the other way and call the cops. Like he's really freaked me out.
Justin really turned on a dime, it's like, you're not going to cooperate, and then he just like totally different guy. It's like, whoa, that turned quick.
Yeah, that guy sucked too.
Well, when he was talking about Anna, is like, when they come out of those ships, they're not always the same, and you do what you're told with that voice. I'm like, geez. And then the shadow walks in, which, by the way, we're starting to see more of the shadows again. CGI's going up, but I think this is the first time we've seen a full-bodied one who hasn't either been phasing in or out or whatever. We just see him walk in like, hey guys, what's up? Justin, what you got?
Yeah, that Justin guy's a real dipshit. But no, listening to that, and I guess while we're talking about that whole scene in the room, a couple things kind of came to my mind when I was watching it, and Morton's not wrong when he talks about the history of humanity. That is kind of how human civilization evolved through, a lot of our biggest technological advances have come through war and military action and, chaos and everything like that. So just trying to apply that on a galactic level is a really fucked up thing to do because we've seen how it's fucked up our planet pretty well. I think we kind of got a lot of answers in terms of, because we've had this discussion over a few episodes about, are they willing participants or are they meat puppets and stuff like that. And I think that it's kind of, we kind of got the answer. It's kind of both. Anna was definitely a meat puppet because they lobotomized her and stuck her into a spider ship and then had to kill, when they pulled her out, it completely warped and destroyed her entire personality. So they had to give her a new one. I think it kind of answered the question to me. I think Morton's a willing participant, and I think Justin is too. They had a choice to make. Some of them chose to serve. Some of them didn't. The ones that didn't ended up being little creepy lobotomized space pilots. So
I do like how Melissa Gilbert played that too, because Morton and Justin are having their conversation with Sheridan. When they start talking about what happened to Anna, she kind of shuts down too. She just kind of gets a little quiet. And then, of course, we see later on when they're about ready to get kaboomed, she's like, well, Anna's gone. That personality is not coming back, but I can love you just the same. I'm like, oh, yeah, me puppet.
That was
Yay.
terrifying. Like, she's going to kill your pet while you're asleep.
I have something about Melissa Gilbert. So they actually had to kind of talk her into doing this. So for those of you that may not know, she and Boxleitner were married at this point. And so it was the producer's idea. It had nothing to do with Bruce, but the producers come to Bruce and say, hey, we want Melissa to come in and do this episode. We want someone that's already got some established, rapport and chemistry with you. What do you think? And he liked the idea, and she wasn't wild about it initially. She kind of had to be talked into it. She was like, no, I mean, this is your show. I don't want to, I mean, they'd worked together before, but she didn't really want to encroach on, his area. But she decided that, amongst their coaxing and Bruce encouraging her to do it, that she ended up doing it. And I think one of the things that sold her on it, never mind, I'll shut up.
Are they still married?
No, I got yelled about that in the comments because I said they were married and I didn't point out that they were divorced. And yes, they are divorced now. Sorry, commenters. Like, I had 15 people nail me on that. I knew they were divorced. It just didn't make a point when I said it.
How dare you, Scott?
I know.
About the divorce.
I know.
Did they have kids?
I don't know.
I can't Google it, so.
Yeah.
We'll be corrected when this airs, so.
Yeah, it always is.
I don't.
Listeners, tell me if they had kids.
Let's go to Mike.
2 points. One is, so they outright tell you that his wife Anna had been plugged into a shadow vessel or something, and had her human OS upgraded, which to me is proof that they all run on Apple. But I guess, do we know for sure that Morden and Justin haven't also been manipulated in some way? I mean,
I was hoping somebody would bring that up because Justin, I agree with you to an extent that they are more involved in what's going on than, say, Anna. Anna just got plucked out of the ship and she's already been plugged in and she's just doing what they want to do. But remember, Justin even talked about perception and how you see things. So even if Justin sees himself as somebody who's more actively engaged, is it just because the shadows are making him feel more actively engaged? Or is he actively engaged? Because after somebody started playing with your mind, does it really matter?
Well, is it programming, basically?
Yeah, and I mean, and that's kind of the point. It's like once you've revealed your hand that you are capable of manipulating somebody's mind, can I trust anything that you say or one of your spokespeople says, like, ever again? Without, what assurance do I have that anybody that I talk to now hasn't similarly been manipulated? And frankly, Blake was the one who commented about it being a timeshare sales pitch, and the more I think about it, the more accurate that description actually is, because the bottom line is, whether Justin and or Morden were ever plugged into a shadow ship or not, torture's torture. And timeshare sales pitches are exactly that. They're torture. They lock you in a room and they hold you more or less against your will until you submit.
And you sell your soul. Yeah.
Little secret, when you're driving through Florida and you see all those signs for cheap theme park tickets, those are timeshares. Stay away. Stay away.
We still do not, in my mind, know the true nature of Morden or Justin or anyone that the shadows associate with.
On your warning, though, to stay away when driving through Florida, couldn't you just apply that to the entire state? Not just the cheap theme park tickets?
This is true.
Hi, Florida listeners.
I happen to know, Blake, that you'll be in Fort Lauderdale later this year, though. So, I mean...
No, technically, no, I won't.
Question mark?
February.
Okay, later this year, smart ass. Okay.
God.
Well, as we were talking about Justin and Blake's travel plans, I did wiki it, and Melissa Gilbert and Bruce Boxleitner had one child in 1995, so right before this episode was filmed, and they were divorced in 2011.
Oh, wow.
And she is currently married to West Wing alum, among other things, Timothy Busfield.
Ooh.
Oh, cool.
Mike, did you have anything else?
I mean, I guess I kind of I didn't bury the lead. I kind of led with this already, but I want to get everyone else's thoughts on what your belief is that the Shadow's ultimate plan is. You kind of talked about, in my understanding of listening to them talk, it's the idea that without conflict, civilization innovation stagnates. You have to have war in order to get to air fryers. And that is basically their whole sales pitch, is like, look, if you want cool shit, you're going to have to go out and kill each other for a while. And that is so outwardly preposterous and ridiculously like evil that it bothers me. It's one of these tropes that reappears, I think, a lot in science fiction. And I guess anytime I see it, I'm like, oh God, here we go again. But what is everyone else's thought on that?
Let's go to the newbies on that, because Emily, I know you mentioned that they want the space for themselves, and if you want to elaborate on that, go ahead, and then we'll go to everybody else. So Emily,
I know what they said, and they're like, "Oh, it's essentially chaos, and they'll evolve better." And I was like, "That smells like bullshit." I believe they want the chaos part, but I'm not sold that they're trying to make the other races evolve to be better and what, like, technologically advanced. That felt like coating on a little shitty candy. Like, it's just, that's what they're saying. It's not the truth.
it's the needle inside the candy bar since it's close to Halloween.
Yeah, I think they were honest about the chaos and the fighting, but
so it's just bullshit on their part. Okay.
Yeah.
I see Jessi nodding her head emphatically as Emily was talking, so go for it.
Well, just one thing, in the spirit of a Facebook meme, nobody likes your kids well enough to give them free drugs, so we can just not with that now. Thank you. Happy Halloween, everybody. Make sure you check your local sex offender registry and make sure you know which houses you're going to. The more you know. Okay.
But if you do know of any houses that are giving out free drugs, please write to Gray 17 Podcast and let us know so we can protect everybody by going and getting them all ourselves.
This is a good point, though, real quick, for our listeners. For Halloween on Twitter and Facebook, send us your best Babylon 5 cosplay. I'd love to see it. There's a lot of good Londos out there, but I know there's other stuff, too. I've seen some good Kashas, actually.
I want to see someone do a shadow costume.
It's like Centipede. You got to attach different people to it.
Also, for the record, I'm not giving out candy because I'm taking my kid around, and I don't like your kid.
That's usually how it goes.
To get back to the podcast that we're doing and have been doing for a while. I like Emily's thought process because I had the same thing. Like, it's not about advancing other races. It's about dominating the entire universe in my mind. Like, they want it. My mind went back to like how Morden approached Londo and convinced him to be able to kill millions of his own people. Although he wanted to, it just seemed it wasn't his people, was it? It was Jakar's people. My bad. Sorry. But you know what I mean? Like to kill millions of people. And like just rewinding to that, I was like, oh no, that totally makes sense why he was so eager to help out Londo. I don't think it's about advancing anything except their own dominance over everything.
Nicole, what do you got for what you think the plan of the Shadows is?
I think they were trying to basically bullshit Sheridan, and they were like, oh yeah, we want to evolve, you can work with us, but they were never going to work with them. They just want to get them out of the way. They were going to get Sheridan to agree to work with them. They were still going to kill everybody, and then they were going to put Sheridan in a ship. That's what I think. I think that, you know, what they really want is like to be in charge and to be dominant, and they don't give a fuck who's in their way. It's kind of like the movie The War of the Worlds, if you ever seen that, which I know was a radio program. They go in, they exterminate everyone, take their resources, and then they move on. And kind of like a locust. That's kind of what I felt like that they are. And they look like them too.
That was a very millennial statement, by the way. Have you ever seen War of the Worlds? I think it was a radio program before. H.G. Wells is like, fuck you.
No, it was a radio program.
Well, no, I know, but it was a book in the 1800s.
Oh,
yeah, I saw that movie. It's called Independence Day. Oh,
which is also a great movie.
Yes, it is.
I saw Independence Day once. It was called V. Well, that's a whole nother thing. And Justin, the plan for the Shadows.
First, being an H.G. Wells fan, that made me shudder a little bit. To me, it depends on what your definition of becoming better means. I believe they believe what they're saying. I think that in their definition of making the galaxy better and making races better, means making the surviving races more like them, and by extension, exuding their influence over the surviving races and taking kind of control of the galaxy. Jessi hit it on that very same episode where Morden puts up that giant image of the galaxy and tells Londo, if you help us, you can have this little part here. You see all the red? that belongs to us. You stay on your side, we'll stay on our side, everybody will be happy. So I do kind of agree with everyone else. I think dominance and kind of conquest is part of it, but I honestly believe that they think by doing so, they are making races better and they are making the galaxy better. So, they believe the bullshit that they're spewing, just like OJ believes he didn't kill Nicole.
So we have basically 100% vote of the newbies that the shadows were bullshitting to some extent or another, and that their real goal is to take over said galaxy one way or the other. We'll talk about this again. I have a feeling.
So I did have a question for Kevin about Boxleitner's wife. So they used a picture of her, of his actual wife, in the beginning of the series. Mm-hmm. And then later we're like, oh, let's put her in this scene.
No, they recast the part. See, the part was played by Toussaint, I think is her last name. I'm drawing a blank on, but yeah, her last name was Toussaint, and they recast it for this particular episode, so much so that they refilmed part of the message that Sheridan's sister gave to him. That was a description of what the plan was with Zahadum for the mission to go there.
Kevin, to go a little farther, they refilmed the entire thing.
Yeah,
because there was an intention, and JMS mentioned it a couple times, that he was, and this was before George Lucas did it, he was thinking about pulling a George Lucas and going back and just redoing that entire scene of that original episode. He didn't do it, as we've seen, but he was thinking about it.
It occurred to me, it's Beth Toussaint.
There you go.
Yeah, he basically, JMS in his comments called it Soviet revisionism brought to television. That it was never happened, ignore the original actress, it's always been Melissa Gilbert, you're just mistaken.
Yeah.
It's really easy when you also have, a married couple doing that, is like the wedding pictures. Those were actually just the wedding pictures from Gilbert and Boxleitner. So they'd be like, oh, we don't have to do anything with that. We'll just copy and paste. Nicole, you said you had something else you want to add?
Oh, it was about the shadows and what we were talking about with Mike's thing. The thing with them is that, they're just so manipulative. That's all they do is manipulate. They find ways to manipulate. So, anything that comes out of their mouths is complete fucking bullshit, because literally all they do, Morden manipulates, they use manipulation as a way to get what they want, the shift of when she came out, I can love you just like that, or whatever. Bitch, get the fuck out of here, you manipulative whore. And the way that Morden manipulates people, that Justin guy was being manipulated, all they do is manipulate. I feel like nothing they say that comes out of their mouths can be trusted at all, period.
Justin.
And I guess I kind of wanted to elaborate a little bit on what I said during my first reactions and maybe get everybody else's opinion. Was I the only person who kind of thought that this episode was a little bit predictable? When I was originally watching it and taking some notes and stuff like that, and I remember going through everything, and when he gets the report and there's something wrong with her, I'm like, okay, that completely makes sense. And then when he's like, okay, he sets the pad down and they have that scene in his quarters where he agrees to go. And then he's looking over at everything. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he's not completely not trusting her 100%. And then I'm like, as soon as he has that scene with Garibaldi where he goes, hey, I want you to do all this stuff for me. By the way, I want all the Minbaris off the ship and I want them put on security clearance. And I'm like, shit, he's not planning on coming back. He's planning on blowing shit up while he's out there, because why else would you have this scene at the very beginning of them having a bunch of nukes on board? And I started piecing the things together in my notes, he's going to put nukes on the ship and he's going to blow up Zahadum. And he's not planning on coming back. He's going to leave some kind of suicide message for Delenn and stuff like that. So when it all kind of transpired, it was all cool to watch unfold, but none of it shocked or surprised me. And I don't know if I was the only one that happened to.
Jessi.
Yeah. So I would say, so maybe because I thought it was because I don't feel like I track this show like some of you guys do. As far as following along, I have to be reminded about stuff before I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. But I didn't see it as super predictable. And maybe it was just me okay, yeah, the nukes, looking back, that was foreshadowing, but I wasn't 100% sure it would happen. And honestly, I watched the whole thing and had no idea what was going to happen. So that doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't predictable. But I didn't see it that way.
Blake.
Well, I think along that lines, and I'm with Jessi here, I don't necessarily see the episode as predictable, But I think to Justin's point where he maybe felt that it was, there's been so much foreshadowing, not just in this episode, but throughout the entire season. It's been building to this whole thing. And they have been dropping hints that this is where this was headed for so long. So I think I can see where you get the idea that it's predictable, because they've put the hints in your head for 21 episodes before this, that this is coming.
Yeah, that actually makes the most sense, Blake.
The only blatant part was here's your delivery of plot device, Commander.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, shocker, 2 are missing. I wonder where they are. Like,
Mike.
Well, and I think it's a little bit of a sci-fi trope as well for some of us that picked up on it, that, you know, the hero loves to drive his starship into things for no goddamn reason at all.
Nicole.
Well, I must be a dumbass because I didn't think it was predictable. I had no idea what was going to happen until the very end when he called the ship and I saw the bombs. I'm like, oh, I mean, I knew he didn't trust her. I knew he knew it was a trap. I knew he was going there and probably not coming back, but I didn't know that he was going to blow it up. Again, I'm new to sci-fi, so I don't know the sci-fi tropes. And clearly I'm not as observant as some of you guys are, but I totally didn't see that coming. And then when the ship came through the glass, which was weird, I was like, oh, hell yeah. And then I was like, okay, I get what he did. But what really made it dawn on me was when the message to Delenn went, that I knew he wasn't coming back. I just didn't know what the plan was.
Yeah, I'm glad Blake brought it up, because I get the predictability, but I mean, this entire show is based on prophecy and signs and portents, if you will. What I really appreciate about this episode is you never have that dumbass moment where Sheridan's like, maybe it is Anna, maybe she's telling the truth. No, he knew almost immediately that this is a setup. And I love that. I love the fact that the character isn't stupid enough to fall into this trap. And then he turns around and says, okay, well, they're going to let me into Zahadum. They're going to let me see the place. They're going to take me there, and I can go ahead and do what I need to do to get things done. So I appreciated that piece of it. I agree. We probably could have got the nukes a few episodes earlier just to set it up. I think that would have been helpful. I do like the fact, though, that this show, again, doesn't think the audience is stupid. Like Ship of Tears. That's a very big plot point of this. We find Sheridan knows for a fact that Anna has been turned because she has the implants, but no one says it. It's just on screen. It shows you for a second, okay, the girl from Ship of Tears had the same implants that Anna has. The audience is smart enough to figure that out without being beat over their heads, and I appreciate that too. I have a couple questions just to kind of get the read from the newbies. We already had one that I'm glad Mike asked. That's a good one. A couple other ones I have is, how do you all feel about where we are with the Sheridan's dream, which was also highlighted again last episode, and to now? Because remember, we talked about the man in the middle, the right hand and left hand, and then Justin does point out that he's somewhat of a middleman. So what do you guys feel? Is that too much on the nose? Is that truly the man in the middle? Have we seen it? Where are we at?
Well, I had a thought on that. The one thing that I kind of thought about, the episode with Sinclair when they go to B4 and all that, and Zathras says, you know, you're all the one. You're the past, you're the present, and you're the future. So he said that Sheridan was the future. So when all that going down and the bomb and, you know, Kasha's voice telling him to jump, like, I don't think Sheridan is dead. Like, I think that he's somehow survived. Maybe Kash somehow intervened, or he knew something that he didn't know, or I don't know. Like, I just kept thinking about that. And I kept thinking about the dream, and then compared to that sequence about like that revelation. And I thought that like there was probably some correlation between the two, but again, I could be completely wrong on that. But I didn't really think about the dream as much as I thought about that conversation with the way that this all went down. But I do think that there is also like almost like a dual correlation with the dream too, if that made any sense.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to your point of the Sheridan survivor or not, we're going to find out as we move forward. But remember, we've been told a couple different things, again, going back to prophecy. Kosh has said several times, if you go to Zahadum, you will die. Delenn, in the future,
right,
says, do not go to Zahadum. She doesn't say you're going to die. She says, do not go to Zahadum.
I didn't pick up anything from this in regards to the dream sequence. Like, there was nothing specific in here that made me think, oh, that this is what they were referring to. Mm-hmm. I didn't get that out of this episode.
My brain keeps going back to the hand comment, just seeing the picture of the hand in the sun. And I still don't have any idea what it means, but I didn't get anything either.
Anyone else have anything they want to talk about with this episode before we go into questions, predictions?
Yeah, it finally explained why I never liked the whole Dylan Sheridan relationship thing going on.
Do tell.
Because she always seemed more invested than he did, because he was still dealing with losing his wife and trying to move forward. So it always felt very lopsided up until this episode.
Really? Yep. See, I see it completely different. I mean, again,
yeah, well, you also think kissing with eyes open isn't
sure, whatever. But hear me out, though. I mean, in the episode we've already talked about where we see the other actor play Anna, Sheridan says goodbye to her, and it's like a meaningful goodbye, and that's the whole point of the episode, which I know most of you guys didn't like that episode, but his sister's there to help him say goodbye. And even with his goodbye video to Dylan, he flat out says, I don't want to go. I want to be with you. He knew Anna was a total crock. He never seemed like we've never seen anything that shows that Anna is still like a chip on his shoulder or anything since that episode where he said goodbye. So I just don't see it.
See, and I heard him say goodbye, and I know he said it, and I think he wanted to feel that way, and I think he was most of the way there, but something up until this point never convinced me that he had fully said goodbye and was like comfortable with moving forward. Something about always seemed not quite comfortable, kind of hesitant. And it could just be because of their position, like their positions on B5 and, you know, in the whole political scheme of what's going on. But yeah, up until this, it always seemed like there was a part of him that just wasn't as committed as Dylan seemed to be much earlier on.
Comments below on YouTube or on Spotify, because you can comment on Spotify too, and tell us why Emily's wrong or why I'm wrong, which either way, I think Emily's wrong, but comment either way. Kevin, what do you got?
I also saw where Mira Furlan talked about the fact that she really wanted JMS to add in some conflict between the two of them. And she said that he knew that there needed to be something else to the relationship. It couldn't just be an easy courtship without any sort of, growing pains or strife or anything else. But I think this was really necessary for the relationship, because not because I always like seeing conflict in relationships on screen, but I think that the way this one had been portrayed up until this point, it needed something else. And Mira knew that very well. And it didn't seem like she needed to talk JMS into it. It was kind of like, hey, can you write in some conflict? And he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. I think I'll do that.
Anything else from anybody before we move into questions and predictions?
I'll just say, I think Boxleitner did a pretty good job in this episode with the acting front, because the character has ridden the galaxy's wildest emotional roller coaster in this episode and come out the other end. And I think, like I said, I just think he did a pretty good job with portraying his character's emotion through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
That scene with Delenn where he's upset with her, his voice is, when it's usually kind of that gravelly voice, when it's got an edge to it and he's angry at someone, it is downright frightening. And I don't think he was trying to be frightening, but I wouldn't want that guy mad at me.
Jessi.
I definitely agree with Kevin. I was watching him do that scene, and I was like, he's really good at this. Like, he really seems disgusted. And just he's a great actor. You can tell that, there's a lot of depth to him. And without him even really trying, it seemed like he was doing a very good job of conveying that.
Yeah, one thing I brought up on our Beyond the Rim that I haven't mentioned to you guys yet is in this watch through, which has been different for me because I'm watching with you week to week and I haven't gone on ahead. I haven't been as impressed with Sheridan as I have been in the past. And so it's interesting to hear what you guys are thinking on that too. I think it's because I've just for, nearly 30 years have been like, oh, Sheridan's great. And I'm watching this and I'm like, is he? So it's been interesting. Blake.
So if we're done on that front, I did want to jump in a little bit on that in narration by Andreas Katsoulis a little bit more. he pretty much did that in 2 takes, according to what JMS said on the production of the episode. He did that in 2 takes. They used the first of the 2. So it's not just the writing, but his ability to deliver, even when it's in a voiceover work, and to feel that inflection of what he has going with that work. So I just think that in dialogue of his was just incredible in this episode. I know we mentioned it before, but definitely worth bringing up again, that anytime he's got something to say on screen or even as a voiceover.
Justin.
Yeah, I mean, to Blake's point, 100% agree. Couldn't agree more. But going back to Sheridan, I guess watching it for the first time perspective, he grew on me, for sure. At the first kind of chunk of the season, I was with some of the other people and being kind of annoyed that he seemed to always have the right answer at the right time and everything like that. But both JMS, I think, and Boxleitner both went a long way into humanizing him a lot towards, I think, the second half of the season, to where by the time we get to Zahadum, you can tell he's not perfect. You can tell he has flaws. You can tell he's not always the, Johnny on the spot with the, has the perfect answer to save the day type mentality anymore. And I think Sheridan's really grown on me during this season for sure.
Nicole.
Yeah, I was also going to say I was all pro Sinclair, Big Daddy Sinclair, my favorite. I'm never going to like Sheridan, this and that, but Justin kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, we got a little bit more meat out of him and it humanized him. But what I like about him, his character development, is that you just saw, I think somebody said earlier, an emotional roller coaster, like so many things have happened to him specifically, and you've seen him as an actor, Bruce Boxleitner, like give us so much different depth and different types of characters and different types of emotion. And I thought that was really cool. And I think that is what made me really start to like him, just the quality of like how he portrays what he's supposed to be portraying in the episodes. But also his character, he doesn't quite play by the rules. You could tell he's a good guy, but also like he kind of gets shit done in a way that isn't always like the best way. He has his own ways of kind of achieving things, and they're not always right, but he knows that. And like Justin said, he's not perfect. He has flaws. And I really think that we got to really see that and learn a lot more about his character. So, I definitely feel like he's grown on me quite a bit as well.
I have a question for the group, having to do with Ivanova. What was everyone's read on her seeming like she believed he was gone at the end of the episode?
It's funny that you asked that, Kevin, because I wrote down on my notebook, and I was going to bring this up and I totally forgot, was when she said he's gone and she had tears in her eyes. It kind of broke my heart a little bit. Like, it's like, she knew, like she knows, like I feel like she knew him and she knew what he was going to do when she put everything together. And they were leaving. She goes, oh my God, he's gone. Like she just figured it out. And it just, the way she portrayed that, it was like heartbreaking.
It was a very good acting sequence for her, for sure.
I think it was her telepathic abilities. She really hasn't had a chance to really display a lot of her latent telepathic abilities yet. And I think this is kind of the first time to where she could just kind of sense it, that something bad happened, even before they confirmed that the White Star was destroyed, even before they even tried to reach out to Sheridan and try and get a hold of him. She knew something bad had happened to him and something was wrong. So, because you can kind of see that it change in her face when she comes to that realization. As soon as the bomb goes off, she knows something bad happened. So I think it was the whole telepathic thing.
Okay, let's go ahead and move into questions and predictions and a couple things. We are at the end of season 3, but next week on our live recap show, we will ask the newbies about any questions and predictions for the entire season. So I want this to be just about Zahadum and what you predict is going to happen after this episode. We'll get into a more detailed season 3 talk later on. Once again, for those joining us for the first time, we're going to get these questions, predictions from the newbies. They're going to get ejected out the airlock, and then we're going to talk spoilers with Blake, Mike, Kevin, and I. Let's go to Nicole first. Questions and predictions.
Well, obviously, does Sheridan survive or does he not? Which I know you guys will talk about. So whose blood was on Sheridan's face? I want to know. If he blew up Zahadum, did he destroy obviously the ships that were out are okay, but like, did he do a lot of damage? Did he debilitate them, or they still have more ships that like were underground? Like how bad was the damage that was done on Zahadum? And then prediction wise, I have no fucking idea what's going to happen next.
And we'll go to Jessi. Questions, predictions.
One of the questions that I had is Londo able to turn down the appointment he got, or whatever they call the promotion he got? I'm not sure if it's something that he's allowed to say no to or should say no to. And then I guess for predictions, I'm just going to predict that Sheridan and Garibaldi both come back. Like, I can't imagine a show without them. So I'm going to be pretty pissed if they one or both die.
Scott, we can answer that question about Londo, can't we?
I mean, I guess. Sure, Kevin, go ahead. You can step on that landmine.
Okay. I mean, in Centauri culture, like, you're just not going to turn down, a job like that. And the fact that, Londo's wanted that his whole life, he's not going to turn that down, even though he knows it's a leash. I don't think he'd be able to come up with a good reason why he would turn it down. He's still going to do both jobs. He made that abundantly clear.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, and I think in a government where it's not a president, it's not a chancellor, it's an emperor. And I don't think you can turn that down.
Good point.
Yeah. And we've already seen and heard that the emperor has made some moves to get people out of the way. Remember the prime minister? We heard about that guy getting exited out of the building.
So he'd be putting himself in a lot of peril too.
Oh yeah, he would die because even in that scene, Londo sits there and says, "The moment I say anything they don't like, I'm going to wake up with a cut in my throat from ear to ear." Well, just imagine if you turn that down. He would be killed. Absolutely.
Especially after just a few episodes ago with Rock Cried Out, we're being told that the Emperor, who we know is Emperor Cartagia, we've heard the name, we've been told that he's not entirely sure who he should lean with, Rifa or Londo. He's leaning towards Londo, but should he? And so there's already some question marks about who has loyalty and who has not. So yeah, I agree. Any other questions, predictions, Jessi?
No.
Okay. Justin, questions, predictions.
I'll start with predictions first. Morton's alive. It's too easy for him to go out like that, I think. I don't think Morton's dead at all. I think we're going to see him again in season 4. And I think he's going to be leading the shadows from here on out. I think Justin, if we had to go back and see the scene from a different angle, I picture Sheridan shooting Justin right in the face, and then him getting him kind of getting to like a William Shatner, like double hammer fist scrap with Morton, and that's how he gets his face all beat up and shit like that. But then he ends up escaping, and Morton ends up escaping. So I think Morton's alive. We're going to see him again. That fucker's not going down that easy.
I'm glad you brought that up, Justin. It was brought up in the Usenets. It was kind of like one of those where JMS just didn't feel like we needed to see the scene, but JMS did point out it was a fight to get to where he was when the bomb fell. So you see blood on his face.
He was all fucked up when he was getting out to that landing where he just looks out over the Shadow City and all that shit. And yeah, he was pretty toe up.
JMS actually said he tussled with a shadow.
And Boxleitner was very disappointed they didn't film more of that scene. He at least wanted to see the room after the tussle. But of course, we don't get to see anything other than just a shot of, Boxleitner shooting at the shadow.
It makes perfect sense, too, because Boxleitner at heart is a Western guy. He loves Westerns. He loves playing in Westerns. So anytime he gets to throw a fist, I bet he would love to do that.
Well, that answers another one of my questions then about if we get to actually see like a flashback of what actually happens during that whole thing. But I also say Sheridan's alive. It's, again, too easy for Sheridan to go out like that. I think somehow he survives falling down the hole, a massive hole, with 600 megatons going off above him. Somehow he lives through this and has to find a way to survive on Zahadum. Maybe, since he's been touched by Vorlon and he has, Kasha's spirit within him, maybe something happens with that saves him. But Sheridan's alive.
Justin, you're a genius. Because they just said that they can't have anything touch them that's been touched by a
Vorlon.
Oh, shit.
See, and I'm really surprised Justin hasn't been gloating more, because he called there's a piece of Kosh inside Sheridan, and it's clear that there is, because he tells Sheridan, "Jump, motherfucker!"
Jump, motherfucker! Yeah,
I've been saying that too.
He's been guided. He's been guided this whole time by Kosh's spirit. Right. So it's Kosh is gonna help keep him alive on Zahha-Dum. And so that leads into part B of this prediction. Going back to all like Jakar's beautiful, and I did the same thing as Nicole. I wrote down the whole damn thing because I thought it was just an awesome kind of monologue there at the end. But the whole part of that is about transition and rebirth. And it's not the first time we've seen this in this season about transitions and rebirth and everything like that. John Sheridan may end up dying on Zahha-Dum because it's still going to be Sheridan. It's just not going to be the same Sheridan. He's going to come back changed. Not like physically altered or anything like that, but he's going to come back a changed person. So by Kosh's, it may be a fulfilling prophecy by Kosh saying, if you go to Zahha-Dum, you'll die, because he's not going to come back the same person. So that's prediction number 2. Prediction number 3, the shadows aren't going to take this line down. Yeah, they are temporarily hurt. We don't know how hurt they are yet, but they are temporarily hurt. But they're going to come back, and they're going to come back with a vengeance. This thing's going to get a lot more darker before it gets lighter. Going into questions, what happened to Garibaldi, and why was he taken? Because I
think he latched on to go there to get Sheridan because he knew what Sheridan was doing. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. I took it as they snatched him. Mm-mm. So maybe I just watched.
I was being quiet because no one brought up Garibaldi, and so I'm just like, we're just not going to talk about him. And
I assumed it was going to come up in questions and predictions.
Yeah, I was going to make fun of y'all if he didn't. So I've heard from Justin. You've said that Garibaldi was snatched. Nicole and Emily, you say no.
No, he did that on purpose. He latched onto that ship to go get Sheridan because he knew what he was doing.
Okay. And Emily, you said the same thing?
Yeah, I assumed Garibaldi voluntarily left to go find him. That was my assumption.
Jessi, what say you?
I think that he did it on purpose because you see him in the last second before he disappears, and he's got this look on his face like, wait a minute, what the fuck's happening? So I definitely think he did it.
Well, that's what made me think that he got snatched, because he wasn't expecting, like, if he
Nicole
was doing this on purpose.
Shaking her head emphatically at Justin.
He would have jumped up to, like, he wouldn't be going, oh, what the fuck? Like,
no, he was surprised they were leaving. That's what surprised him and shocked him, because they started leaving, and then he's like, oh, wait a second, what the fuck? And then he was like, nope, I gotta go. Like, I think he was surprised that they were leaving, and that's what shocked him.
Well, I guess one of us is right and 3 of us are wrong.
It's me. I'm right. I'm just kidding.
But so like, why? And if he was taken, why did they take him? Was it for something specific? Does Garibaldi also have a special destiny? And then that's pretty much it then, because I kind of wrapped some of my questions into my predictions. So that's it for me.
Emily, questions, predictions.
First question: what the fuck was that abyss type thing he jumped into? Like, he's just jumping off the ledge into, like, what, the vacuum of space? What the fuck?
Nicole pointed out that she hasn't watched sci-fi, so she's not knowledgeable about all the tropes, but every single planet / spaceship / space station has a bottomless pit. Let's be honest. I love the fact, like, I'm thinking back to, like, Star Trek Nemesis, where they're literally on the lowest deck of the ship, like deck 26 or 28 or whatever it is, and Riker and the guy are fighting, and then they find a bottomless pit and shoot him down. Like, that was the last deck. What is this?
Sometimes the bottomless pit has a tongue and some teeth. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yep. Then you crawl out of it 30 years later and make a terrible TV show. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, can we all get behind the fact that the Boba Fett show was shitty? Can we all get behind that?
No.
Jesus Christ.
No. I mean, it was slow in parts. I didn't love all of it, but
they had the teenage aliens from Turtles. They remind me of the Planet Z or Planet X turtle teenagers.
But I'm not going to say it sucked. Sorry.
Fine.
You want to talk about suck? We can talk about.
Here it comes.
Anyway, never mind.
Ah, damn it.
What's the one that came out of oh my god, what is the matter with me tonight?
You can remember every actor's name from 1995.
I know, it's ridiculous. Cassian Andor, the Andor series. I didn't like that.
Oh, I heard that was like the best.
That's not Star Wars.
Oh, so that means it's good, right, Kevin? Yeah. If it's not Star Wars, it's good.
Yeah.
I actually have a Millennium Falcon on my shirt.
I
Why
just
are
had
you
an
such a-
aneurysm.
Why are you Star Wars haters? God, I love Star Wars.
I know. Thank you, Nicole.
Fuck Star Trek. How about that?
Whoa, whoa, whoa! I don't want to associate with that.
All right, I don't want to be here all night. Let's go.
Mike, you were saying, Mike?
I couldn't. No.
No, we're done.
Shut it down.
Where the fuck are we? Emily, are you doing questions, predictions? No, it's Nicole.
I have no idea what's going on
No,
anymore, so.
Nicole's up for questions, predictions.
No, I'm done. I already went.
Nicole went first.
Okay, so Emily's up. Emily is up. Questions, predictions, Emily. I was right.
The Abyss one, because I'm struggling to figure out how he's going to survive this, if at all, because it kind of doesn't make sense to kill him off at this point, but maybe it does. Who the fuck knows? Yeah, that was basically my question. What the hell did he jump into? Because what he jumps into will dictate a lot of what happens afterward.
I would assume if he's a puddle on the bottom of the floor, it's going to dictate a lot of season 4.
Or if he's like in some weird la la land of who knows, like a weird new Vorlon dimension portal opened up that was just hanging out in Zaha Doom, you know, who knows?
I would assume that'd be Vorlon's touching the shadows, but we'll see. And then predictions, Emily, anything?
Nope, nothing.
Is Sheridan a puddle? Yes or no?
Don't really care.
Emily got some hate comments on YouTube from one guy, and I think Blake and I promptly had fun with him. But you've already got some hate comments, Emily.
Oh, I don't know about those. What exactly did I do to
us about
piss
these
people
anymore?
off?
Should I read the hate comment to Emily? Is that what I should do?
Is it gonna ruin my night, or is it actually kind
No.
of funny?
No, it's just no. Hold on.
First of all, before we even start, fuck that guy. Let's just start there.
Fuck.
No, they were clearly
Although
told
I
that.
did say some things knowing they were gonna piss people off. So because sometimes I'm just a little sassy.
I haven't been on enough lately to piss anybody off, so I'm just back here chilling.
You really are slacking, Jessi. I mean, there for
I
a
know.
while, you were like our number one fan getter.
What can I say to piss people off today?
Okay, so here is the lovely comment that you got from Dr. Algernon Benway 1542.
Doctor, can you spell that out?
Algernon Benway.
Oh, okay.
Common spelling.
That was a good book, Flowers from Algernon.
Why is Emily still on this show? Question mark.
Oh.
You know
shit.
what?
Oh, no, it's not. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Hold on, please. Please hold.
Shots fired.
Why? I should use this for the review is what I should have done. Why is Emily still on this show? She clearly doesn't like Babylon 5, doesn't get it, and doesn't even bother paying attention to the episodes. She would be happier if she were doing something else. And so would we. ...
Wow, what a dick.
Are they talking about me? Because I feel like that could apply
they were
to.
talking about me.
No, because
I
there
was
was
having
one
super
episode
sexy day.
where
It was Rock
Emily
Cried
was-
Oh, yeah, I
Rock
don't
cried
like
out,
that
having
episode.
having trouble engaging with the episode. So it's like, all right, you have one episode that you're having trouble with, and he goes off like an asshole.
Okay, but that's not the only episode I've had an issue with. So
Well,
yeah.
I know, but
Even
that was
I
the one that you
questioning
were
the
having
choice.
trouble engaging with, like you.
Blake,
Yeah.
would you like me to read your response? Do you
We'll
feel
go right ahead. I mean, we're on
Okay.
a roll with this.
So here's Blake's response. Perhaps because she actually is enjoying the show, she's maybe not liking all of it or not liking certain plot and story elements as much as others, which is okay. That is why we brought together a group of people who could offer diverse thoughts and opinions on the show and not just engage in a fanboy circle jerk. Plus, keep in mind, Emily is watching through for the first time, so it is to be expected there will be missing things. Hell, those of you who've watching the show many, many times over still catch things at the first time or notice things differently each time we watch it. This has been part of the fun for us and first ones, and this is getting that first time experience via our newbies. But hey, thanks for listening. And here comes the quintessential Blake. Thanks for listening, and if you would be happier doing something else, I am sure you can find something to occupy your time, such as hate listening and commenting on someone else's podcast.
We can recommend a couple.
I did also point out, I commented too, just saying, because this was Rock Cried Out No Hiding Place, and then Emily, you actually really liked the next episode after that, and I had known that because we already recorded it, so I said, your gatekeeping is going to look really good in about a day.
Do you know who that sounds like? That sounds like our friend from Brazil. Because
Yeah,
that's
from
exactly.
Argentina.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Our friend
was
from
it
Argentina who may be an escaped Nazi? What?
Possibly.
Because that's the same fucking trope that he used with me when I hated the entire first season of this show.
And that's kind of a fanboy thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't like anyone with vaginas. What?
Right.
You invalidate
just because they can't
yourself.
get one.
You invalidate yourself
Jesus.
the minute that you assert that your feelings are shared by everyone else in the entire fucking world.
Right.
We would all be better off if you'd left the show.
Right.
Who the fuck are you to take my agency away from me?
Right.
Fuck you. Like,
What we really need, though, is for Jessi and Emily and Nicole to discuss pay equity again between them. Because I know the last time they did that,
Yes, we got some.
loose.
Yes.
All right, can we talk about mental and emotional load in relationships? Because I know that will go over super well too.
You need to get back in the kitchen and shut your mouth because we've had enough.
I want to point
I
out,
do need
send
a snack, so maybe shoving something in the pie hole will help.
Send all your comments, whether they're good or bad, because at the end of the day, your comments help our algorithm. So even if you're going to bash the shit out of us, it still helps us. So keep them coming.
And it gets us good comedy fodder. So bring it on.
Girls rule and boys drool.
Thank you, Dr. Algernon. We appreciate it.
No shit. Thanks.
On that fun note, we'll go ahead and wrap it up with the newbies. And we will be back next week, but not to talk about an episode. We'll be here to talk about all of season 3. We will be live on YouTube October 22nd at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Time. And you can join us, and we will absolutely have the fans involved in the talk. And we have usually a really good time with our recap shows. And then the week after, we'll be back in the Hour of the Wolf, which is the first episode of season 4. So thanks for all of you joining us through the first 3 seasons. We've only got 2 seasons left of Babylon 5, plus some movies and some other fun stuff. But we are definitely on our way down the hill. We have gone over the peak.
Boo.
Be sure again to like, subscribe, follow, leave a review, leave a comment. Even if you want to bash on one of our ladies, feel free. Again, it helps us. Jessi is flipping off the camera right now, just in case you wanted to know. I know from our analytics that only about half of you are subscribed right now, so click that subscribe or follow button. Especially on Spotify and Apple, that really does help us. So until next week, when we talk about season 3, I have been Scott, and with me has been...
Jessi.
Justin.
Blake.
Emily.
Like
Nicole.
And Kevin.
Jessi, did you strain yourself with putting both those middle fingers up when you did that? Are you okay?
I'm a fucking lady.
Thank you for listening to Grey 17, a Babylon 5 podcast. You can find all the places to listen to and watch this podcast at anchor.fm/Grey17podcast or youtube.com at Grey17podcast. We want to hear from you, so join the conversation at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Patreon. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review where you are listening to or watching this podcast. Grey 17 is not affiliated with, and the podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by Warner Brothers or any other owners of the Babylon 5 copyright. All clips included in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders. They are included here for purpose of review, and no infringement is intended. The opening and closing themes are available from Falling Matter on YouTube.
And what's out there?
The rim,
And beyond that?
the truth.
Welcome back to Beyond the Rim again. Final warning, this is a spoiler section where we'll be discussing all of the questions and predictions that the newbies have about Zahadum. And we may be talking a little bit more about other stuff that comes up in season 4 and season 5. So if you have not watched past or you just don't remember what happens next, this is a time where you should leave us. So guys, we'll dive into the questions, and most of the questions revolve around, obviously, the big cliffhanger at the end. We kind of already answered Nicole's first question, but I'll throw it out because I think it is something that we've talked about a little bit. And whose blood was on Sheridan's face at the end?
Sheridan's.
Yeah, I assume that's what he got roughed up. I mean, he got out of there, but he got his ass beat when he was trying to get out of there because he looked like he was out of breath. He was tired.
Yeah, I mean, it never even occurred to me that it wasn't anything but just his.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think I would have loved to see Bruce Beisleiter fight a shadow, but it also would look really terrible if 1996.
Yeah, that was the producer's point. There was there was literally no way to do that, so we decided that we weren't going to do it.
Or we could watch him beat up an old guy with Justin, just beat the shit out of him.
Yeah,
There we go. Could have been an idea.
Okay, next one is, does Sheridan survive or does he not? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that's interesting is everyone's right. Delenn didn't want him to go to Zahadum because he's going to die in 20 years now. And Kosh was right. He did die. He just got brought back. Emily asks, and we kind of already discussed this on the main show, but if there's anything else you guys want to add, is what's with the bottomless pit? She turned into Seinfeld. And how does he survive?
We don't know. And we also don't know why it has a skylight above it.
But this is where I go to why I disagree with JMS and some of the others about who is the man in the middle. Because Sheridan's dream was generated by Kosh, right?
Yep.
Kosh is who tells Sheridan to jump off the balcony into the pit. The man in the middle, to me, is Lorianne waiting for Sheridan in the pit to catch him.
See, but I don't. When we watch Hour of the Wolf,
there later.
Yeah, but I don't. And if you've watched it more recently, I may be wrong, but I don't remember Lorianne saying that Kosh knew Lorianne was down there. I think Kosh was just trying to prolong his own existence, just like Sheridan is. When he jumps, he's like, "Well, we're going to blow up anyway. Might as well jump and see what happens."
He doesn't, but I mean, Lorianne does not say that. That never gets admitted or alluded to. But I just think Kosh would have an idea that he's having him jump for reasons. Because, I mean, it was an emphatic jump now.
Because we're going to blow up.
That's what I was saying, too. Is like, there's something very prophetic about the way Kosh handles that situation. And I'm 100% with you, Blake. I don't, like, he wouldn't have just said jump into the bottomless pit for no reason. Like, he had some reasonable expectation that there was salvation at the other end, at the bottom of the pit. Like,
now I'll be the first to say to Blake's point about Lorianne being the man in the middle, JMS has changed his story over the years several times. It's like reading a Rorschach pane, figuring out what JMS actually wanted to mean. But he did say on the Usenets flat out, Justin is the man in between, the middleman, as he describes himself. So in 1996, at least, JMS was on my side.
And frankly, I mean, in a show where we've learned that the one is actually three different people.
Yes, that's true.
The middleman could be Justin and Lorianne.
Wasn't that a show, The Middlemen?
Maybe.
I don't know. Did Sheridan do a lot of damage to the shadows?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, he didn't take him out of the war or anything, but yeah, he hurt him.
There's a guy I watch on YouTube. His name is, he goes by a couple different names, but on this show, he's Lore Runner. And he went through all of Babylon 5 a few years ago. And one of the things he's kind of theorized, and I don't think it's ever really said in the show, is that the Shadows have forgotten how to build their ships. They've been around for so long that they bury them in planets to make sure that they're around for the next cycle. The theory is that their ships are finite. And every time you take one out, and this also goes back to Shadow Dancing, why they ran away, is because when you take one of their ships out, it's not just like they can rebuild it. It's that's damaging to them in a lot of ways.
It's interesting, and maybe it's less that they've forgotten how to build them, because I don't know that I buy that explanation. But since they're biological, maybe it's more of a we can't breed them anymore. We don't have the ability to make them anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, his illusion, it was imagine 100 years from now and you find a car after the apocalypse and it still drives. You can drive it. You don't know how to build it, but you can drive it. But yeah, Mike, that's a good point too with them being bio. But either way, I think that we've been shown here in the past couple episodes that when they take damage, it hurts them a lot. It really does set them back. I love the fact that one of the next episodes is whatever happened to Mr. Garibaldi, because our newbies didn't really give a shit either, which is fun.
It really surprised me. I was going to say something about it at the end when nobody had mentioned it, and then like, who was it? Jessi like casually dropped it in questions.
I just assumed it was going to come up in questions and predictions, but I figured we'd talk about it if they didn't.
Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about it because our newbies are dead wrong, at least 3 out of 4 of them, when they asked, did Garibaldi go willingly? And if he was taken, why? Garibaldi did not go willingly. He was taken. And why will be an entire plot point for all of season 4.
It is some of Jerry Doyle's better acting, him being an asshole, which is right up his alley. So
was he really acting though at that point?
Yeah, right.
He was taken by the Shadows. He will be picked up by Psy-Corps, and he will be turned. He's going to be another Control type character. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on with Mr. Garibaldi. Although JMS actually today, as we're recording this, threw out on Twitter that it's ironic that Garibaldi is the only one who actually truly gets a happy ending. He gets a wife that he's always wanted. He gets a kid. He gets $1 billion whatever credit job, and he's playing, watching Franklin and his kid play tennis at the end. He gets the good story at the end, even though he goes through shit to get there. Moving right along to predictions. Morton is alive.
Yeah, he's alive, but he looks like an overcooked marshmallow at this point.
I am convinced Justin has seen the show before.
So I will cop to one thing. So,
oh, did you spoil it?
No. Justin flat out, he was like, I'm done watching Zaha Doom. I think Morton's still alive. And he kept pressing me, and I was just like, yeah, we'll see him again.
Oh, Kevin.
I know.
Wah, wah, wah.
So I'm going to cop to that one. But he came to me with it. But that was one of those things where it was like, okay, Justin, I can't, like, I don't have the mental toughness to have you keep pressing me in your state right now. So yes.
You would not do well with the guy with the sandwich in the room that comes up in season 4, right?
You should also stay far, far away from those timeshares.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, he's gonna be the one buying 2.
Oh man, we had one of those. The second day we were married, we had one of those because we bought a honeymoon package.
Yep.
At Moon Palace in Mexico in Cancun, and yeah, I was like, I'm not making this kind of financial decision on my second day married. Sorry.
It's one of those where they say you only have to go to an hour meeting, and then they lock the doors behind you as you walk in.
I will be the first one to admit that we fell for it, and it was something we feel shame and regret about ever since.
So yeah, Morton will be back. And I will talk about it when we see Morton again, I think next episode. This is where I truly think that, again, I'm going to get comments as I always do. I really truly think that they are not in control. And Justin has a prediction that comes up that talks about this as well. But Morton is no longer a human because he got nuked and he just kind of regenerated his skin. Same way with Justin, the Shadow Justin. I don't think that he is in control of anything. I think he thinks he's in control, but he is just another puppet for the Shadows, just like Anna, just like Morton. I will say, too, JMS pointed out that Justin was not a part of the Icarus crew. He was assigned later, is what he said. So whatever that means. This is a fun one. Morton is now the new leader of the Shadows.
No.
And that goes back to what I was just talking about, too, is that none of these humans or human-like entities are in charge at all. But we do have some more fun with Morton before he gets beheaded and then comes back as a ghost. Yay. Next prediction, Sheridan is alive, and he will have to find a way to survive, and Kosh will help.
Sorta? I mean, Sheridan is Schrodinger's Sheridan right now.
He's between tick and talk.
He's neither dead nor alive. He will have to find a way to survive, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's not really a way to survive. He's not like going to have to scrounge for shadow meat or anything. But the whole point is he's going to have to decide, is it worth fighting for? Is it worth coming back? And that's Lorian's whole point is, do you have the will to live? Yes. Knowing, too, that you're going to pay a price. But do you have the will to survive? So he's going to have to survive, but it's not like a physical Maslov thing. It's more than that. And Kosh does help. But again, this goes back to what I was referring to about my opinion on does Kosh know more about what's happening after the fact is we were told by Kosh himself that after living for so long, he got used to living. And I truly think that this Kosh is trying to hang on for dear life, whatever that life is. But I can see where you guys are coming from, where it's much more planned out than that. I don't see it. I just see Kosh is trying to survive.
I think it's a little of both. Is how I view it. I mean, I think we know that the Shadows return to Zahadum because Lorian is there. And I have to believe that after however many millennia, the Vorlons probably know that Lorian is there too. Maybe, I don't know if there's anything that contradicts that opinion or not.
I don't know about it. I mean, if there is, it's in the books I haven't read.
But I have to believe that they would know that he is there too. And whether Kosh knows exactly what is going to happen or not is I think not the point. I think Kosh believes there is a chance that Sheridan and therefore himself will survive by jumping into the pit.
Well, I'm kind of thinking like, good old Die Hard. The bridge is going to explode. Jump. You may not make it.
Maybe
but
there's
jump.
water down there.
Hold on to that hose and hope for the best. And it's not Jerry Doyle jumping, even though it looks like it. John Sheridan did die, but he will come back changed. Kevin, you're cheating.
No. I copped to the one that's true. That was it. I thought it was a minor thing.
We've talked about this a little bit, probably a couple seasons ago now, that we have a theory that because Kevin and Justin have been, and Blake and Justin have been friends for a long time, that even through osmosis, Justin has probably seen this show before. He just doesn't remember the finer points.
Look, I mean, I'm sure that as much as these newbies tried to stay away from stuff, they probably saw something of, I mean, even just buying the box set for Justin, going to see Sheridan on the cover of the box set for season 4, even though he put it on a shelf immediately. And I believe him. I know he did, because he wouldn't lie about something like that. But it's kind of a layup, honestly. I mean, for this major of a character to not be in the final 2 seasons, it's kind of a layup.
Well, I have to think this is like a funny, almost a generational thing with like the whole transition from live television to streaming. Because I mean, let's face it, we're all pretty old at this point, and like B5 was on live TV, so there's like every chance that flipping channels one day, right? Justin has saw a commercial or seen an episode or whatever. Like, it's not like today where you have to deliberately make a decision to go watch something. I mean, hell, I used to turn on the TV, sit down to eat dinner, and just pick a random show. I didn't even have to know what it was, So Yeah,
and I mean, we already had this with, I mean, you could not pull up a picture of Babylon 5 without seeing Dylan with hair. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not the first time for that, for sure. The last question is, the shadows won't take this lying down, and there is going to be an escalation. Not
also
really. But not really, though. I mean, this is the weirdest thing about season 4 for me. And I know it's because, and we'll talk about this, I don't think we want to talk about this with the newbies until we get past season 4, because it gives stuff away. But on the meta, season 4 was going to be the last season. They were told that you're going to get season 4, but you ain't going to have a season 5. So they really compacted everything into one season. The Shadow War ends in 6 episodes. 6 episodes and the Shadow War is over. Into the fire. So, and then the rest of season 4 is what happens with the Earth and everything else. So we've kind of seen the start of the end of the Shadow War with this. So there's not much of an escalation. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is I think a lot of damage was done to the Shadows when Zaha Doom gets blown up, because I don't think they have much of a fighting force left. But we'll see the end of it here 6 episodes from now. So guys, that ends season 3 for us. Again, we're going to have the recap next week. And if you don't join us on the live, or you're listening to this, 20 years from now, if that even is a thing, we will be releasing this season 3 recap as a podcast on our normal Wednesday. And then the next week we'll be doing the first episode of season 4. But guys, season 4 is when things get pretty darn interesting for us schedule wise, because in 8 episodes, we're going to do the first movie with Third Space. So that'll be interesting to see how the newbies take to these little side quests over to movies and everything else as we move our way through both season 4 and season 5. We got a little bit more to go before we get to the end of this thing. And I think season 4, even though season 3 had the much higher rated episodes, I still think there's some really good stuff in season 4. And I think that's where this whole show really does come together. So I'm looking forward to it. So until next week, when we talk about all of season 3, I've been Scott, and with me has been
Blake,
Mike,
and Kevin.
Remember to like, subscribe, follow, and leave us a review, and we will talk soon. And season 4 is a coming. Wells Fargo wagon is a coming down.
Thermal fusion system armed for detonation.